Welcome to the Fertility Mind podcast. I am your host, Jessica Friesen, a certified fertility mindset coach, a sound healer, and an international best-selling author. My mission for this podcast is to give you weekly episodes where you hear my own success with IVF and how mindset and manifestation changed it all for me. You will also hear from my guests who share their success stories in the fertility world. I want you to know that you are not alone during this journey. Even when things feel tough and when things don't feel like they're going your way, with the tools and techniques that you will get from this podcast, I know it will change everything for you too. So thanks for being here with me today, and let's dive in. Welcome to another episode of the Fertility Mind podcast. My guest speaker today is Danielle Amos, who happens to be my very first mentor in the mindset manifestation industry. And she truly gave me all the tools and tricks that I believe actually allowed me to manifest my last baby. So without further ado, Danielle, please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Jessica. It's an honor, first of all, to be here with you and to now see you leading women through this work is just the best. Like, I am such a proud coach, like mama here. And just to see, also your photos with your family and see how happy you are, like it makes all of it so worth it to me. So congratulations and thank you. So for everyone listening, my name is Danielle and I am a coach and a mentor. I specialize in mindset and understanding the universal laws as that relates to getting you whatever you want. So if you can tell me what you want, I can show you how to get it because the laws are the same. If it's more money, more confidence, more love, in Jessica's case, a baby. And the laws work the same. The universe operates by law. And I love speaking about that so that a person gets what they want with less time, less effort, less struggle, less settling, and more happiness and joy.
Amazing. So to give our listeners, how did you get into the work? Like, what was going on with you that attracted you to this information?
Yeah, great question. So I have been involved, I guess, in personal development for a long time. I've always been a seeker. So at 19 and 20, I traveled to India to study meditation and so I've always been like looking for answers, someone that looked for answers. I also studied science at university, which I think is important to mention because I always wanted to figure things out, like how do things work? And then I went into a career in food tourism and had a really great job. Like I was headhunted, working for the province, traveling all over, and on the outside, everything looked like it was really working. But I had this desire to work for myself. And so I started a network marketing company. I thought that was like a really great bridge to becoming an entrepreneur. And I assumed that I would just go to the top of the company. And that's really important because it didn't happen. And the moment that it didn't happen, like years of hustling and trying really hard, had me feeling like something was wrong with me, that I needed fixing, that I wasn't a good leader, that something was broken, and that if I just tried harder and fixed whatever was wrong, then I would succeed. Well, a lot of time went by. I ended up quitting my job so that I could spend more time on my business. That put us in quite a bit of debt, and it didn't help at all. And so then literally I'm like praying at night, like I need a solution. I've read all the books, like nothing's changing. And then in walks Bob Proctor. My mother introduced me to him through a seminar. And from the moment I heard him speak on stage, I knew he knew something I didn't. And I decided to become as coachable as possible to understand what he knew and apply the principles of success really to my life. Within 6 months, my income tripled. I was asked to speak on stages for my network marketing company. I promoted in the company by December, and just like things started to work, and it felt like magic. And literally people were coming up to me and they're like, what happened? Like, it was such a crazy change that they wanted to know what I did. And so from there, I was also feeling so much better, like, about myself, because, my perception of myself changed. And so I remembered how awful I felt about myself, how I was beating myself up, and how I was overworked and felt like I was underappreciated, underpaid. And I decided I needed to become a coach. And I really wanted to follow in Bob's footsteps. So at that moment, I wrote on my page that I was Bob Proctor's protege. Like, who do you think you are? You're not even a coach, like, yeah. And within 18 months later, that was what was being said about me. And I was in the top consultant within Bob's world. So it's incredible. What happens when we change our mindset.
Absolutely.
Now I'm on a mission, Jess, to like make sure that women aren't settling, like, and it has nothing to do, with your past, like where you came from or what you've experienced in life so far. And it doesn't matter what area of your life you're focused on, as you had the privilege of really being that example in our community.
And like, honestly, I think a community is such a beautiful place, because I can speak from when I first joined the community. My self-image was pretty low. I constantly had a voice in the back of my head like I wasn't enough. There was constant contrast going on, and I became a victim to my circumstances always. And it was always like, what is wrong with me? Why do I deserve this? Clearly I'm not enough, because, stuff was just constantly happening. And I truly hadn't let go of the fact that my husband had 3 children naturally with someone else, and I had to go through infertility and IVF treatments and things like that. And it wasn't anything to do with my husband or his ex-wife. It was what I was holding on to me. And the true honestness is, I had this assumption, people assumed, well, it had to be my fault because my husband already had 3 kids. So clearly I'm the reason this is happening. And I didn't realize all the self-talk that was really going on. And, I remember thinking about wanting to start this podcast because I really just wanted women to know that this is not anything against them. There's nothing wrong with them, and that don't give up when it feels like the world is against you, and don't give up when a doctor tells you it's not going to happen. That your mind is so incredibly powerful. And I really do contest that this information is beyond life-changing. And the happiness, like you said, I feel so happy. Like, my husband and I just shared our 10th wedding anniversary, and we renewed our vows. And it was so emotional. Like, we used the same words and everything from our original wedding, but it was just like, we've gone through a lot in our life, and going back and blessing and releasing and letting go of all those things that no longer served me. And I finally stepped into a version where I said, I really want to help women through infertility, because I have seen so many women give up and really just say, you know what, I can't go through another miscarriage, or I can't go through another failed implantation, or whatever their diagnosis or their situation is. That they give up because money's not there or things are not there. And I remember telling you, thinking, I don't know how I'm going to pay for this course because I can't. We're financially tapped out. And it was just everything lined up. And I was so incredibly grateful for being in your energy and, just listening to your teachings in the mornings. I was like, wow, this woman is giving me hope when I didn't think I had it anymore. So, yeah.
You said something really important, that our mind is incredibly powerful. Our mind and what we believe, we always get what we believe. And so if we understand that our beliefs are just thoughts that we keep thinking and that you're in control of your thinking. Now, someone listening might be like, well, yeah, but the doctors told me that like it's not possible. But here's the thing. Can you just lean in, first of all, to this idea, what if what Danielle and Jessica are talking about, that it's true that there is a universe that we live in right now where anything is possible, and that the only limitation on a person is their imagination. So could you accept that just for a moment, that possibly, quite possibly, because you've been listening to what the doctor says, or the averages out there about women in pregnancy and IVF and all of that, that somewhere you accepted a belief or an idea that's not serving you as it relates to this pregnancy. And if you're willing to just let that go, not from blame, it's not like I need to blame my doctor because he told me this. That's not where it is at, because it's not your doctor's responsibility for you to believe. It's your responsibility, because no one can think for you.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and it wouldn't be nice if doctors understood that anything's possible. And at the same time, it's just not where their mind's at, not all of them anyway. And so what if what we're saying is true? And here is the coolest thing. Once you open up to this idea of what if anything's possible, you'll start to hear stories, incredible stories that people on the outside will call miracles. And a miracle is just a term that people give when they don't understand the universal laws. It's not a miracle. It's just working by law. My best friend had her baby in her 50s. Through IVF, and through this work, she, just like you, Jessica, I know you know Jake, she, manifested a baby against all odds. They told her, no. 5th out of 7, I believe it was her 5th embryo. There's amazing stories just like that. Why can't you be one of those for all the people listening?
Mm-hmm.
Because you can. You just first have to believe it. And so are you willing to open up, right? Your mind and your imagination, first and foremost, what if?
Mm-hmm. And I think that's such a great message, because I know personally for myself, when I was in the fertility world, when I had listened to, it was The Power and the Secret by Rhonda Byrne. That was my only understanding. That was my first, I guess, taste of law of attraction or manifestation. I needed something to give me hope. Because in 2014, I didn't know anyone talking about fertility or miscarriage, or I didn't know a single person in the fertility world. And I refused to listen to, my fertility doctor even advised, don't go on to social media or chat rooms that they were called back then. He said, because you're going to find it to not necessarily be the place, and everyone's going to tell you it's not working for them. And I was curious. So I did go in, and I did find it to be such a negative place. And I became on this search to find someone to give me hope, and I couldn't find it. And, so I listened to audiobooks on my drives to London all the time, because I needed something, because I felt really alone, and I was still holding the belief that something was wrong with me. And it wasn't until I truly surrendered the whole entire process and I got pregnant with my twins. And I didn't know I was surrendering at that point, but I was at a breaking point. I got down on my knees with tears streaming down my face, and I said, universe, if you're listening, this is all I have left in me. Please give me twins. So if I'm only going to have one pregnancy, I want it all. I will take on all the responsibility. I will be so grateful. And, I did. I ended up having boy-girl twins, but I didn't know what I was doing back then. So yeah, I probably was the one being like, it's a miracle, it worked. but then being in your community and learning what surrendering was. And I remember, again, when I was on my secondary fertility journey for my son, it wasn't until I reminded myself, okay, stop controlling, surrender to the process. And so many beautiful alignments happened between, like, without going into crazy details of the story, just we were in smack dab in the middle of winter, and every time we had to drive 3 hours away, the weather was perfect, and we had to line up a urologist. We had to line up in between my husband's catering events for an egg retrieval, a sperm retrieval, and all these crazy things. And to the outside world, it looked like chaos, and it looked like no. And even my fertility doctor and my fertility nurse had 2 separate conversations with, we should cancel this cycle. Just wait till January. And I'm incredibly grateful that I was like, no, we're doing this. And, we had our implantation in January, and the first implantation took. And I was like, I listened. My intuition was just speaking clear because I chose to surrender and trust in the universe, trust in faith that it was working out. And it was incredible.
I just got shivers as you said the word trust, and trust like twice. For everyone listening, like this is faith. Like this is faith, but it's based on knowledge for Jessica, because she has studied in order to have this faith and understanding. It's so powerful, because I can hear people like, well, how do you trust? Like, I don't have, you had the evidence of the twins, but that's the logical piece of where her trust is coming from. It's actually what she's talking about is a trust way deeper than that, a trust in. Also, I know this about you, that if that didn't happen that January, the first embryo taking, I know that you also trusted yourself to be okay. Like, mm-hmm. I know that you were able to hold the flip side of that. And that's a big part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You were willing to persist. Like there was no way that wasn't going to happen for you at some point. It wasn't a matter of if, it was just a matter of when.
And I think an important part, like when I started this course, we literally were, financially, things were very tight. And when I had said to my husband, I said, we're going to study this. And my husband had just started his catering company. So he's like, no, like every penny we have to do. And we had both quit our jobs. So this was it. And I remember, like, he would listen to some of the morning, like he would listen to the recordings of our morning teachings, and we would just have these beautiful conversations. And when we went into our consultation to start our IVF journey again, like my husband was so in a money mindset of, we don't have the money, we can't do this, but I'm willing to hear what the doctor says. And our doctor, like we both talked to him, and we said, like, financially, like, we need to know that this is going to work. It has to happen the first time because this is all we have. Like, we are giving it all. And he gave us a discount. And he had talked to us about how we qualified for funding, because funding never existed in 2014. And we talked about money mindset, and how money is energy, and how we attracted money. And even when there was contrast showing up and we thought, like, we don't know how we're going to pay for this bill, or we don't know how we're going to pay for this medication or this, the money always showed up because of faith and really harnessing. And, if I wasn't in this community, I would not have had that money mindset. I would have just really been a product of my environment, that life is happening to me. It's not happening for me. I don't have the money. And I settled so much of my life before this information that, this is why I want to share it with every single person on a fertility journey, because you can have the things that you want, and you really do just need the right material for it to line up for you.
That's so good. And the money really only comes once you've made the decision.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's challenging for a lot of people, I think, to understand, because it's like, I can't commit to this because there's no money. Well, the reason there's no money is because you haven't committed.
Mm-hmm.
And I love, my mentor, Bob Proctor, in his book, You Were Born Rich, he shares the story of his aunt who wanted the house. And he said, well, like, they're like, well, I want to buy a new house, but I don't have the money. He's like, you don't need the money. What do you mean? We haven't decided to buy the house yet. And it's like this really catch-22. It's like, so the question then is like, well, how can I really, and you've answered it, you just answered it, is like, how can I make a committed decision that this is what I'm doing, and I literally burning the boats, and I'm willing to figure out before I have the resources. And so you taking the step to go visit that doctor and have a conversation, an honest conversation about what you desire, you then manifested money in the savings, in, having like the grant money, also, like, all of that's a manifestation of your power. You don't know how it's going to come together, and it comes together if you're committed.
Absolutely. So, and the, like, I want listeners to truly understand, like, people have said to me, you're one of the lucky ones. Mm. And I've responded back with, no, I absolutely believe that no one is lucky that ends up in the fertility world. But I do believe in gratitude. I believe in love. I believe in faith, and I believe in my mind. And, some people look at me like I've got two heads and that I'm crazy. But, I really do believe in this information. And just, I couldn't have conceived ideas of how money showed up for us the way it did, in the way of my husband starting to book so many events out of nowhere. And, we before we went back with our fertility doctor and said, like, it has to work on the first try, we had a miscarriage and 2 failed implantations. And I refused to give up, and I did go through a period where mentally I was cursing the universe, saying, like, why are you giving me this road? Why? Like, I didn't ask for this. But I reconnected with my faith, and I reconnected saying, I know that there's a reason for this. And when we went back and we had that call and we found funding and we found stuff, I thought, this information really does work. And we actually did get pregnant with the first implantation after that. But without this information, I couldn't have conceived any of those ideas. I would not have believed that money would show up the way it did or how it did. And I definitely didn't consider myself lucky. So
yeah, let's talk about that word lucky, because I don't believe that there's any such thing as lucky. It's kind of like the same word that we use when we just like for miracles. A person isn't lucky. Like, the universe doesn't play favorites because we're all worthy, just because we're human beings. So there's no, the universe isn't saying, oh yes, just gets the baby, but you know what, Kate over there, nope, it's not how it's working. But what's happened, why people say, well, Jess, you got lucky. They don't understand the incredible discipline that it takes for you to master your mindset. It took a lot of work for you to study this material and apply it. Now, so then my question becomes to the listeners, it's like, are you willing to learn what it means to master your mindset? Because your success in any area of your life, not just in this fertility journey, in any area of your life, is based 95, 97% on your mindset and the way that you're thinking. That takes work. It takes effort. You know that. Mm-hmm. To not feed into the fears of that the doctor's laying on to you, not to feed into all the worry that your mind gives you right before you're going to bed, to wonder if you're like eating right, doing all the things right, to not beat yourself up about if, it doesn't work this time. So it's the willingness to persist no matter what. All of that is great effort. And I believe, and Wallace D. Waddell says this in The Science of Getting Rich, this kind of thinking is the hardest work in the world. Mm-hmm. And the return on your investment is extremely high. So your success is 95 to 97% of your mindset, and only a little bit has to do with what you're actually doing. 3 to 5% is the actual strategy. It's your belief in the strategy that matters most. So for you, Jess, it was the belief in your doctor. It was belief in this implant that mattered more than anything. And for that, you needed community, you needed guidance, you needed support, you needed understanding, you needed to be reading and really applying the teachings to your own life. And you did that. And so because you did that, you got the results. Or your results always show us what has been going on in the mind. And here's what I know about you. Because although you said like the first one had to work, like I said before, I knew that you were willing to persist. And the universe knew this too.
Yeah.
Because we'd seen you persist before. Now, the truth is, all of your listeners, Jess, they already have the baby in the vibrational realm. This is something you and I talked about before. You had to become so clear. I remember like our conversations about you in your, like, it was so detailed how it felt to hold your baby boy. Like so detailed, so detailed. You saw him in your mind before he was born. You were willing to become so emotionally attached, where an outside psychologist might be like, that's dangerous. Like, don't let her do that, because if it doesn't happen, no, that's not how it works. You allow yourself to build the picture and feel now as if that baby is in the physical form, because it already exists. If you desire a baby, it's in your vibrational field. You just have to become the match for that baby in the physical. And then it's born.
And I remember when we found out at 10 weeks, so we did a specialized test, an NIPT test. So at 10 weeks, we were able to find out the gender. And my friend did a little gender reveal for us. We bit into a cupcake and it was blue. And my husband was crying and he looked at me, he's like, why aren't you crying? And I said, I knew I was having a boy. And, you know, I get emotional talking about it now, but I was in such a state of holding on that I was having my son. I had his name picked out, like everything. And I said I was going to have a like blonde hair, blue-eyed baby boy. And, you know, when he was born and he had blonde hair and blue eyes, like my husband said to me, he's like, you really did it. And I said, I know. And I was so emotional. I thought, I know, because I refused to not listen to anything else. And yes, the voice still creeped in. I still heard lots of outside noise, but every time I just kept saying, no, I refuse to not believe that I can't have this. And yeah, it took effort and it took work, but I'm so incredibly grateful that I didn't give up and I didn't let my circumstances guide me the way sometimes it felt like they were wanting to. And yeah, so thank you for this conversation. It's been amazing.
The other thing I want to say is, like, we also had conversations of Orion. I'm saying that right? Orion, thank you. Already being here. Like it. So that's another thing for the listeners to understand. Like, how are you speaking about your baby? Are you focused on how he or she isn't here in the physical yet? Or are you speaking as if he or she is here? That was a huge gap. I remember the text and like, just like going back and forth, and like, that's a big piece of it. And you becoming like having the feeling right now of already being his mother. It's key. It's everything. Everything. But it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, you know, to the average person. It's like, what are you doing? That's crazy talk, what you're up to. You were willing to play the mindset game.
And in all honesty, like people said to me before we announced that we were having a boy or anything else like that, they said, well, what if you have a girl? And I said, I'd be absolutely grateful to have a girl, but I know I'm having a boy. And, people said, like, why would you want to choose your gender? And I said, honestly, for me, I had 3 stepdaughters. I had a daughter of my own and I had a son of my own. And I wanted the mix in my house. And there was just something that I knew that I wanted to have one more boy. And it just, I can't really explain it, but people would look at me like, you're odd. Like, yeah, I am. And that's okay. But yeah, holding the belief was such a powerful thing for me. And I remember just walking into Oren's room before it was Oren's room, and I would just see the crib in the corner, even though it still had my twins' beds in there. I was just like, no, this is where I'm gonna like go pick him up in the middle of the night, and this is what we're gonna do. And I just constantly focused on that, even when my outside world wasn't saying what I saw in my mind. So
that's where it all starts.
mm-hmm.
It all starts in the mind, and you've got to be able to see the picture. That's by law. So good. This, Jess, your story really is serving so many people, and there's a great ripple effect to you sharing your story, because it's not, it's not what we're used to hearing, I'm sure, in the fertility world. And if if someone's listening to this and they resonate with, I haven't been assuming that I'm going to get pregnant, or I've wanted it, my desire is strong, but if I'm honest with myself, I have a lot of doubts,
mm-hmm.
a lot of worries.
There was a lot of duality, even when I first started this information, because like I was holding hope, I was holding all the things, but then there was still that voice in the back of my head that said, but what if it doesn't work? Yeah. And I thought, I don't want to harness that information. I have to let that go. It's still, it still crept up often. And it wasn't until like I said, I surrendered and I was like, I don't have time for this. I'm nexting the idea to this because this is what I truly want. And, and I think that is the difference in the fertility world, is just you go in with hope or you go in with your desire, but the back of your mind, whether, you've had wherever you are in your journey, you don't necessarily really believe it could happen. It's just the hope part that you have. And that's what I want everyone to know. It's more than just hope. It's far more than just hope. But if you're willing to do the work, you will have your baby. So.
And the question becomes, are you willing to persist even if it takes longer than what you're wishing for, and then it really becomes a persistent game, because it doesn't have to be, and it may take longer. You might hear like negative things around you, but like you said, you release those ideas and focus on what I want, and it's that game. Okay, so like that may be true for that person, and it's not my truth. What do I want? How would that feel? And it's not like the doubts and the negativity doesn't come, and you're just given tools to deal with it so that it doesn't override your experience.
Absolutely.
It's such an important distinction.
Mm-hmm.
So now you have tools, and you use those tools and you succeed, right?
Absolutely.
How cool. Love it. I love it. So it's so great to be back and reminiscing and about your time in the community. And this is another thing, like I'm sure you're using the same tools now to create this podcast and how this business and how you're helping women. Like the principles never go away for your entire life.
Like when I first thought of this podcast in 2019, I was so excited. And then my self-image very much took over, and I thought, what if people say negative things to me? What if people don't receive the information that I'm saying? And I completely just took it right off the board. And, I started doing the work on myself and really understanding what I wanted to do. And I really connected with my desire to want to help. I've always wanted to help. That's just who I am. And I thought, this is a way that I can help. And I'm stronger now. If people say negative things, that's okay. I understand it's their paradigms, it's their self-image, it's their thoughts. And where they are at their point of their life, it's not necessarily at me, it's them where they are and how they want to receive this information. And I thought the people that need to hear it are going to hear it. So I just got to do it. And I have pushed past fears and I have pushed past emotions, but the desire and want for more is what guides me every morning. Even when I get nervous or, I wake up thinking, I can't do this. I can't ask that question. I think, no, yes, I can. Yes, I can. And the best thing that you ever said to me is that you can never outperform your self-image. And I was like, what does that mean? And then I understood what that meant, because my self-image was like, no, you can't do it. You can't do it. That ego telling you, no, stay in your little box. Stay right here. You're content. It's fine. And I thought, I don't want to stay in a box anymore.
Love it. Here you are launching.
Here I am.
And I was going to say, you are speaking to the woman who is ready to hear this. Those are your people. All the rest of the people aren't your people. So trust in that.
Yeah.
Your energy reaches your people. That's it. And that's who you're showing up for. And people have been waiting for you, Jessica. Just like they've been waiting for all the other people listening. There are people here that only you can impact. And they've been waiting for you to show up. Here you are, gorgeous as ever.
Yeah. Thank you so much for this call. It has been so amazing to connect again. It's been so amazing to openly chat. And I really do know and hope that my listeners have such a great, takeaway from this call. So thank you again for being a guest and doing this with me.
My pleasure. Anytime. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
If you found this helpful or know anyone that needs to hear this, please share and don't forget to leave a review and subscribe. In love and gratitude, Jessica.